How you doing, everyone? This is Matthias Atva from Dreadnought, your Dreadnought PS4 replay guy. Well, if you've been paying attention to the Dreadnought Twitter feed around June 11th, you would have heard something about a patch coming this month, and I guess it came a little earlier than expected, and we have it on the 20th of June. According to Twitter right now, we have the Dreadnought Summer Update patch notes, and PS4 around 2 hours ago for Eastern Time, that would put it at 5:30ish, was back online, and PC is currently restarting and should be up soon. So let's take a look at the Dreadnought Summer Update patch notes. This is kind of interesting. I mentioned this patch in one of my previous videos, and I was going to go over it more in depth for the June Dreadnought game and channel update for Dreadnought. But let's take a look at the patch notes now and just go over it so you know what you're getting into when you log in. So first we have PS4 stability. Now, when I first heard that it was going to fix stability, I got really excited because I thought maybe they would have put a permanent fix to blue and black screen problems that were happening in Dreadnought PS4. But apparently it fixed a crash that was resulting in about 40% of all PS4 client crashes. This crash most often occurred on initial login. Another instance of this crash could happen if you transition back to the home screen if the game finished downloading during the training or tutorial match. Well, I don't do training or tutorial matches anymore, and I did not experience this particular crash, so I'm a little at a loss for words. I kind of didn't know that this crash was going on. Most people in Legendary play didn't mention any crashes recently, so if you've been experiencing this crash, that's good news for you, but I don't think it's going to affect Veteran or Legendary play much. But it's good to know that we are getting a patch and that people are working on the problems of the game, and even though maybe a little slower than progress was in the past, we still have a crew working hard to make Dreadnought better for you and me. So there was another apparent bug, PS4 Havoc mode. Occasionally a bug would happen where Wave 12 would not spawn enemies and it would cause progress to be blocked. I haven't played Havoc in a little while. I do play it once in a while for snaps and giggles, especially if I'm a little burned out or there isn't many matches going on. But lately that's not the case. I usually pick up a match at around 4 minutes or less, sometimes instantaneously. And last time I played Havoc, I made it to Wave 14 no problem. And that was with the Space Apes, and I was doing healing. By the way, if you ever want to play Havoc and get your medal, go ahead and private message me, and we'll see if we can get together. I don't mind being the healer for a team, and I know a little bit about how to beat Havoc fairly well. I'm not as good as some other players, but I can guide us in the right direction. This is really interesting. I want to know more about this. Corvette modules fixed an issue where some players could be grandfathered into equipping multiple armor amp modules. Note this may require some players to reapply their Corvette loadouts. Now, I avoided using armor amp during the big Corvette change that happened earlier this year, and I didn't want to call out anyone who used the overpowered armor amp, and at first I thought making armor amp stronger would be a good idea for Corvettes until I realized how long the armor amp lasted, and I thought that was a little unfair, and I avoided using it. And then I thought about using it after it was fixed and experimented with it a little and found that just for the most part, Afterburner or auto repair and a couple other modules were just better than armor amp because they either got you out of trouble or saved your life. So I stopped using armor amp altogether, but I think it's interesting that I wonder if this is an exploit. Fix an issue where some players could be grandfathered into equipping multiple armor amp modules. I think that's very strange. I guess maybe armor amp showed up twice on the list and in another slot, maybe the primary, so they could use armor amp in their primary modules and then use armor amp in their internal modules. And if that's the case, that would explain why some Corvettes are really hard to kill. I always thought they were using officer briefings to get another use on armor amp, and I believe if that's the case, that's very unfortunate. However, that's now fixed, so if someone was exploiting the game, that is not possible for them anymore, and that's really good news. But to tell you the truth, any Corvette using armor amp, it wasn't really hard to get around. I usually survived their onslaught and waited them out and took them out. And it really wasn't a problem, and as I said before, if you use mobility and shield modifications and repair modules, armor amp on Corvettes isn't nearly as strong as it is on Dreadnoughts, and it's not very hard to overcome. Ship Vanity fixed multiple missing icons for coatings, emblems, decals, and patterns. Some emblems were showing the low LOD version in the hangar. They should now show the high LOD. I do know that on my Dreadnought occasionally the coatings would be low quality and would be a little messed up in the tail section on my Jutland/Monarch, and hopefully this fixes that. Other decals and patterns I really haven't noticed. I have enough paint jobs that all my secondary builds on my ships have alternate paint jobs. That's kind of a callback to Nintendo and PlayStation and other gaming consoles, where your second player is an alternate color to your first player icon. And also just to designate it to me that I have my secondary build up in case I choose it by accident. But I do use the Empire paint job, and it shows up high quality that I can see on all my ships. And I also use the Lunar Wolf icon for kind of a lone wolf emblem. For my bow art, I use the Valkyrie emblem, which I really like that one. It has kind of this weird glowing blue eyes and a white face, which goes with the Empire paint job very well. And all that has been top-notch, but if you experience problems with your ship Vanity not being high quality, I guess that's changed now. Missiles and projectiles. A lot of this is great. A lot of these I ran into. Tartarus missiles now provide a nuke warning at the appropriate time instead of right before it hits. I know I've been hit with Tartarus a couple times and there wasn't even a nuke warning. And many times I was hit as the nuke warning was being called out. I've been hit with nukes as the warning was initially being alarmed. The nuke warning would maybe start, and a tenth of a second later I'd get hit with a nuke, which caused me to die a couple times, and I was a bit frowny face about that, but life goes on. But that should be fixed now as far as the Tartarus is concerned. Plasma cannon fire should no longer be invisible if shot towards you from max range. This I don't think was a problem with Aquila Dreadnoughts, but I did notice that if you started losing damage on your hit point bar and there's little purple splashes on your HUD, and you look around, there was probably an Oberon Dreadnought shooting at you, and if it was coming nose on at you, sometimes its shots were invisible. But I figured that was just a game glitch, and I took evasive action, evasive maneuvers, and got around it, so it wasn't really that bad, but I'm glad that's fixed. Hell lasers will now give a much higher priority to nuclear missiles when multiple targets are present. This is a huge concern of mine. I stopped using hell lasers because, one, they didn't take out nukes all the time. They're really great that they take out both nukes and missiles and torpedoes. When they changed that from just nukes alone, that was a huge boost to the game, and hell lasers became a very good module to take. But a lot of times, if they were already firing at other projectiles, nukes would make it through. And also, even though they have exceptional range, they can shoot down. They're one of the few anti-missile lasers that can deal with missile repeaters, which is a favorite weapon of mine, because they can shoot down the warhead before it splits. at 6 kilometers if there's nothing else in the air for them to shoot. The problem is they only shoot at 2 lasers at a time, and also they have a fairly slow refire rate. So I actually, on some of my builds that actually use anti-missile lasers, usually when I'm being hunted, on a couple of my destroyers I load up anti-missile lasers to shoot down the disruptor missiles and point-blank storm and torpedo barrages, and it works very well. And I do a little less damage, but I'm much more survivable, especially if I get multiple Oberon destroyers hunting me and they both start firing disruptor missiles. I can use either Hell lasers or anti-missile lasers to shoot them down, but anti-missile lasers are better if you dodge nukes. Anti-missile lasers, you have 4 lasers firing every half second, and they have a very short range, which at first sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's actually not, because when your lasers are limited to such short range, you're only shooting down projectiles that will imminently hit you. A lot of times I had a Corvette torpedo salvo fire at me, and my Hell lasers were busy shooting at missiles on the other side of the map, which was annoying. Where normal anti-missile lasers can take out a Corvette torpedo salvo for no problem, the entire salvo, just wipe it right out. Multiple disruptor missiles, even missiles staggered, one ship will fire at me, and then 10 seconds later another ship will fire at me, and they'll both come in for the ram. And anti-missile lasers handles the problem, no problem. They actually do a good job of dealing with storm missiles too. Flechette half battery now uses a proper icon. I noticed that a long time ago, that Flechette battery, half battery for tacticals has the wrong icon, but that really didn't affect my gameplay. It was moderately annoying, but not really something worth complaining about, but I guess someone did, and they fixed it, and that's good. Here we go with the market. Oh man, when I heard rumors that this patch was going to address the market, I was really hoping for new items, especially the new retrofit skins. And I guess it's just fixing some bugs. It fixed an issue where the lower left offer from GP or Elite status would sometimes appear with the icon of the upper left offer. This included 90-day Elite status, 5,000 GP pack. These had confirmation boxes with the correct information. So I mean, that sometimes the image was goofed, but when you purchased it, it still gave you the correct amount and showed the correct amount. So it's good that that's fixed, but I was really hoping for more market items. New offerings in the market are a bit out of season. Yeah, no kidding. We kept these since they offer... I did an entire video on this, by the way, but moving on. We kept these since they offer a unique color, pink, with a new type of emblem, holographic. And we wanted to put out some new offers to verify the update pipeline to live. I think that's poorly worded. I don't know of new offers. I'm still downloading the patch currently, and it's still loading. It took a long time. It's apparently a big patch. Everyone else has been commenting on it on Nuclear Inferno's Dread Chat. It is a long loading patch. That's probably because some of these bug fixes took a lot of code. I don't know if there's new offers on old items, like maybe new sales or new bundles, but hopefully they get some new in-season items, and we get some items that had already been promised to us and completed but just haven't been put out, especially the retrofit skins. I saw 3 images of completed ship retrofit skins, 2 for Akula and 1 for the Jupiter Arms Tactical, which I want really bad, and the Akula Destroyer retrofit skin looked really good. Both Akula retrofit skins reminded me, this probably dates me, but reminded me of the original Robotech with Macross and Genesis Climber Mos Pieta. Some of the, especially the Akula Destroyer retrofit skin immediately hit me as the look and feel of the Genesis Climber Mos Pieta, aka in America under Harmony Gold, Robotech: The New Generation Season 3. Both of those animes are the same thing. They're just linked to Macross in America, and they're not linked together. They don't share the same story in Japan, which is a whole nother. There's plenty of videos like from Toy Galaxy, I think, does it best. If you really want to know more about the truth behind Robotech, if you're a fan of that franchise, go visit Toy Galaxy. He'll fill you in on the ridiculous nonsense that Robotech and Battletech have to go through in the legal arena. But in defense of Harmony Gold, they brought anime to America, essentially. They were one of the pioneers of getting Americans to watch anime in English dub. So, but in order to make money, they sued the crap out of everyone. So basically the rest of the world watched anime a certain way out of America, and we watched anime for a lot of shows a certain way in America. But anyway, well, I want to see those retrofit skins, but they are not live yet. So we'll see what kind of offers, new offers that we'll get. And the last section over here is tooltips. Nuclear mines now display the actual range of possible damage instead of a single value. The ballistic cannons on the Tier 5 destroyer Gora now display the correct damage in the tooltip. I'm interested to see what that correct damage is. So what's weird is the Tier 4 Blood does more damage in a perfect world where every shot hits, which we all know Akula destroyers have trouble with because of the velocity and accuracy of their weapons. The Blood actually has a higher DPS than the Jupiter Arms Vigo, but it turns out that the Vigo can put more shots on target and has a slower reload. So the reality is that most Vigo players on average have a much higher DPS than most Blood players on average, especially at mid to long range. But the Athos has the highest gun DPS in the game, I believe. And you feel it when it's shooting at you. And it's got very fast projectile velocity. The repeaters, it's easy to see their tracers. So you can really put the pipper and lead the target very well. And the shots hit and they do a lot of damage. And it's a very low reload time, where the Gora has very high damage per shot, but the Gora fires very slow. And in the tooltip, its DPS is lower than the Athos, so I'm curious as to see what it actually is now, but I suspect it's still lower than the Athos. And the Gora still suffers from slow projectile velocity, and it's fairly hard to aim. I've gotten pretty good at it, but it's still not the easiest thing to do. And heavy plasma cannons on the Tier 5 Dreadnought Zame now display the correct damage in the tooltip, and I'm also curious to see what that damage is. The Zame is a decent ship. It's an all-rounder, but I think for Dreadnoughts, we're an all-rounder in the realm of artillery cruisers and especially destroyers is a good thing. I think for Dreadnoughts, an all-rounder is not so much, because all Dreadnoughts are slow and easy to hit. I'm a big fan of the Monarch because it was my first Dreadnought, and it just is a... One player called my Jutland a floating planet, like a Death Star. And then I got to the Monarch, and then I started using Reinforced, and it has a lot of hit points, but its guns are the worst of any Dreadnought. I'll be the first to admit that. Its guns are awful. Its guns are okay against Corvettes because they're kind of like a weak shotgun. But besides that, they're just awful, and that's because of their range being limited to 5K. But the ship has to have a weakness. It is very hideously slow, but you can get around that, to be honest, with either jumping or smart gameplay. Make the enemy come to you, use long-range weaponry as far as modules. The Invictus guns are like half as strong as the Athos guns, and they have a bit of a spread. It's got a spread. It's got a spread on it, making it very easy to hit small targets at far away. It has a low reload cooldown, and it's they do good damage. And then when targets close in, you can switch to the repeaters or flak. So overall, even though I don't do as well in the Invictus as I do in the Zame, I like playing the Invictus more. I can get out of more trouble, and I can fight people off better when my modules are disrupted and stuff. And it's a fast ship, and overall I think its guns are way better than the Zame's. Now the Zame's plasma guns do put out damage, but at mid to long range it's really hard to hit other players unless the other players are being very predictable. And even up close, if you get up close to the Zame, you're not using plasma guns, you're using repeaters. The other thing is the plasma guns have such a slow shot, it's almost not worth switching to them when the repeaters are reloading. If you've noticed in some of my replays, I'll fire repeaters, and then as soon as the repeaters are reloading, especially in the Invictus, I can empty out a third to a half a clip in the Invictus. No, I would not a half. I would say a quarter to a third of a clip in the Invictus while the repeaters are reloading, which is just a constant purple spam in your face. It's very effective. The Zame, I fire the repeaters and I try to get one shot off with the plasma cannons, which usually misses, and then I wind up not getting back to the repeaters on time and missing like a half a second worth of DPS. And it's sometimes I don't even bother, to be honest. I don't even bother. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what the correct damage of the plasma cannons are. If it's better than what it used to say, you know, I play the Zame anyway, to be honest. It's fun because I make it fun. But if the actual damage is lower than what the old tooltip said, I'm probably not going to play it as much anymore. I've been trying to get a good replay with the Zame, and I get a lot of decent, great replays, but I've been really struggling getting a fantastic, like 18 above kill replay with the Zame. It's very difficult. And I think it's because of those plasma cannons, and because even though it's faster than the Monarch, it's just slow enough to not get you into a good position to get you into the action, you know? But anyway, that was a brief overview of the Dreadnought Summer Update patch notes. We're going to go into this more during the Direct Dreadnought game and channel update in probably 7 to 8 days. And by then I'll have some feedback on the patch, and a lot of it sounds good, and most of us are just excited that we have a patch. And because there wasn't anything really new as far as content, I was thinking about not doing a special episode for the patch, but to be honest, since I have to wait 20 minutes for the patch to take effect on my PS4, I thought I'd throw one together anyway. But I'll cut it off there. That's it from me for now, and I hope to see you soon on the PS4 server and in Sinley Bay.